In the endless darkness of space, the Galactic Empire's fleet moved with precision, like predators gliding silently through the void. Ships of all sizes, sleek and deadly, reflected the dim light of distant stars. Captain Vorlan, a tall, stern man with a sharp gaze, stood on the bridge of his flagship. He watched the holographic star map float before him, showing the positions of dozens of human colonies in the sector. The humans were scattered, unorganized, and, according to the Empire's records, weak. Vorlan's lips curled into a confident smirk. "The humans are insignificant," he said softly, almost to himself. "They cannot even stand against a single patrol fleet." For centuries, the Galactic Empire had ruled with iron and fear. Their fleets had crushed rebellions, their weapons had annihilated entire planets, and their name alone brought terror to every corner of the galaxy. Humans, however, were a curiosity, primitive, fragile, yet stubborn enough to survive on a tiny blue planet. To the Empire, that was amusing, but in the far reaches of the sector, something unusual was stirring. A strange distortion appeared in the void, a shimmer of light that moved unnaturally. Sensors flickered as the fleet tried to identify it. Vorlan stepped closer to the console, his brow furrowed. "What is that?" he demanded. His voice carried the authority of a man used to obedience. "Unknown signature, Captain," replied the lead sensor officer, her voice trembling slightly. "It is massive. Its energy output is unlike anything we have recorded. No known ship matches its design." Vorlan's smirk faltered. He narrowed his eyes. "Show me," he ordered. The view screen lit up, revealing a colossal silhouette emerging from a tear in space itself. The object was enormous, larger than the Empire's dreadnoughts, with a hull that shimmered like silver and strange symbols etched across its surface. It moved with a grace that was almost alive, gliding silently through the darkness as if it had existed long before the Empire. A shiver ran down Vorlan's spine. There was something unsettling about it, not just its size, but its presence. It seemed to command the void around it, bending light and shadow as it came closer. The fleet's crew exchanged nervous glances. They had never seen anything like this. "Prepare to engage," Vorlan barked, though uncertainty lurked beneath his confident tone. "Identify it, scan for weapons, and keep your ships at the ready." His voice carried authority, but inside, a seed of doubt had begun to grow. The human ship stopped at the edge of the sector, its hull reflecting the stars like a mirror. There was no sound, no chatter, only the steady hum of its engines. Vorlan studied it carefully. It had no obvious weapons, no visible fighters or turrets. It was beautiful yet terrifying, a perfect machine that seemed to wait patiently for something only it knew. "Captain," the sensor officer whispered, her voice tight with tension. It's moving toward us." Vorlan's hand instinctively went to the side of his chair, gripping it tightly. He had led countless fleets into battle, crushed countless enemies, yet for the first time fear brushed against his pride. "Impossible," he muttered. "It shouldn't be able to do that." The crew tensed. The silence of space was now broken by the unspoken realization. The Empire had underestimated something. Something vast, powerful, and unhuman. And somewhere inside that massive hull, humans were waiting, unseen, ready to prove that the tiny blue planet they had dismissed so easily was home to a force that no one in the galaxy could ignore. Vorlan exhaled slowly, trying to hide the tremor in his hands. The calm before the storm had arrived, and none of them were truly prepared for what was coming. The colossal human warship moved with an eerie calm, drifting closer to the Galactic Empire's fleet. Its polished hull glimmered under the light of distant stars, almost hypnotic in its perfection. To the Empire's officers, it was like staring at a phantom, an impossibility that defied every rule of physics and strategy they had learned. Captain Vorlan's fingers tightened around the edge of the console as he studied the massive silhouette. His mind raced. How could a single ship have survived the rigors of interstellar travel alone? And why did it appear here, in the heart of the Empire's territory? "Captain, sensors are reading unprecedented energy levels," said Lieutenant Saren, his voice betraying a rare tremor of fear. "The ship is powerful. We've never seen anything like it." Vorlan's jaw clenched. "Powerful or not, it's just a ship. Prepare to engage on my command. Open fire if it comes within range." He tried to sound confident, but even his own words rang hollow in the vast emptiness of space. The human warship, however, made no aggressive move at first. It drifted almost leisurely, its engines glowing faintly, pulsing in rhythm like a heartbeat. The Empire's fleet waited tensely, each captain hoping to detect a weakness, a flaw, anything they could exploit. But the humans had none. Every sensor ping returned the same unnerving result. Shield levels unmatched, hull impenetrable, systems unreadable. Then, without warning, the human ship accelerated. It didn't just move. It glided like a predator stalking its prey. The fleet's sensors screamed warnings as massive energy pulses flared from the ship. Lasers lanced across the void, bright streaks of light that should have shredded anything in their path. But the human warship's shields absorbed them effortlessly, reflecting energy in a dazzling display that lit up the darkness. "Shields holding, Captain," Lieutenant Saren shouted. But their return fire? Before he could finish, a single blast from the human ship tore through the lead cruiser. The ship didn't just explode. It disintegrated in a burst of light so bright it blinded the nearby sensors. Vorlon stumbled back from the console, unable to believe what he was seeing. Hundreds of years of Empire engineering, every calculation, every tactic, had failed in an instant. Panic rippled through the fleet. Officers shouted orders, but coordination collapsed under the sudden chaos. Ships collided, shields failed, and the once proud formation dissolved into disarray. Vorlon gritted his teeth, trying to regain control. But the human ship moved with impossible precision. It avoided every attack, striking only where it would cause maximum damage. In the command room of the human ship, Commander Elena Reyes watched the chaos unfold with calm, unwavering focus. Her crew worked seamlessly, each human anticipating the next move, reacting faster than any machine could calculate. "Target their command ships first," she said, her voice steady. "Disable their fleet coordination. Make them feel their own fear." A young ensign hesitated. "Commander, we're outnumbered, hundreds to one." "Are you sure?" Elena's gaze met his, firm and unwavering. "Yes," she said softly, "because they don't understand humans. We fight for more than survival. We fight for each other, and that is something no empire can calculate." Outside, the human warship danced through destruction, a single vessel taking on an entire fleet. Explosions flared around it, light flashing across the endless darkness, but it moved with elegance like a creature born for battle. The Empire had never faced a foe like this. Clever, relentless, unyielding. Vorlon's voice was barely a whisper now, trembling with disbelief. "Impossible. How can one ship?" He looked around at his officers, all of them frozen, all of them terrified. The Empire had faced rebellions, aliens, even rival empires, but never this. Never humans. In the black silence of space, one truth became painfully clear. The Galactic Empire was not ready. Not for this. Not for a species that refused to bow, refused to surrender, and refused to be underestimated. And somewhere deep inside that massive human warship, Elena Reyes smiled faintly. Humanity had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same again. Inside the colossal human warship, the bridge hummed with activity. But there was no panic. The crew moved like a single organism, each person knowing exactly what to do. Commander Elena Reyes stood at the center, her eyes calm, scanning the fleet through massive viewport screens. She had seen battles before, yes, but this was unlike anything she had faced. Hundreds of enemy ships, the most powerful fleet in the galaxy, were closing in. Yet she felt no fear, only determination. "Status report," she said, her voice steady but commanding. Lieutenant Miro, her communications officer, spoke quickly. "Enemy cruisers are trying to regroup, Commander. Their formation is collapsing, but they are sending reinforcements. We are outnumbered by at least 300 to 1. Elena nodded. She had expected that. Numbers were meaningless against strategy, courage, and unpredictability. She turned to the young ensign at the tactical console, a boy no older than 20. "Are you ready?" she asked gently. He swallowed hard, nerves visible, but nodded. "Yes, Commander. I'm ready." "Good," Elena said. "Then let's show them why humans never give up." The human warship moved with flawless precision, weaving between energy blasts, dodging missiles that would have destroyed any other ship. Every move was calculated, yet fluid, almost instinctual. It was as if the ship itself had a soul, responding to the thoughts of the crew inside. Outside, the Empire fleet was in chaos. Cruisers spun out of control. Fighter squadrons collided and shields failed one after another. Captain Vorlon's voice, usually filled with authority, now trembled with frustration and fear. Regroup! Form a defensive line, he barked, but the order was meaningless. His ships were no match for the human speed, intelligence, and cunning. Back on the human ship, Elena's crew worked in harmony. Fire on Vector 7, she commanded. Target their command ship cluster. Precision only, minimal collateral. Energy beams lanced out, striking the Empire's command cruisers. Explosions lit the void like distant stars going supernova. Vorlan's flagship rocked violently as alarms blared. Officers shouted over the chaos, trying desperately to salvage what was left of their fleet. But the humans were always one step ahead, anticipating every move. A sense of wonder began to grow among some of the Empire's officers, even in fear. They could not understand how a single ship so outnumbered could dominate the battle. And yet here it was, humans defying every expectation, every prediction, every law of war the Empire had ever relied on. On the bridge of the human ship, Elena's eyes softened for a moment. She glanced at her crew, each one tired, their faces pale from the stress, yet burning with resolve. "Remember," she said quietly, "we fight for each other. Every life aboard this ship matters. Every human life matters. That is our strength." The young ensign's hands shook as he piloted the ship through another deadly corridor of enemy fire. He glanced at Elena, and she gave him a small nod, a silent encouragement. In that moment he understood. Humans did not fight because they were strong. They fought because they cared, because they refused to let fear dictate their actions. Outside, the Empire's fleet began to scatter. Some ships tried to flee, others tried to regroup, but it was too late. The human warship moved with elegance and ferocity, striking at vital points, disabling weapons, and leaving devastation in its wake. Every attack was precise, every maneuver intelligent, and every crew member worked as if they were part of something greater than themselves. Vorlan's voice cracked over the intercom. "Pull back. Pull back!" He had never experienced defeat like this. Fear, confusion, and awe collided inside him. He realized in that terrible moment that humanity was not just another species to dominate. They were something entirely different. And deep inside the human warship, Elena Reyes smiled faintly, eyes glinting with quiet pride. "We are human," she whispered, "and we will never be underestimated." In the darkness of space, the human's presence was a beacon, not of destruction alone, but of hope, courage, and the unbreakable spirit of a species that refused to bow to any empire, no matter how mighty. Across the Empire, the news of the human warship's assault spread like wildfire. In the command halls of the imperial capital, alarms rang, and holographic displays flickered with reports of ships destroyed, fleets scattered, and entire sectors left vulnerable. The Empire had faced threats before, rebellions, rival factions, alien races, but nothing had ever moved with such precision, such intelligence, or such unrelenting force. The Emperor, an imposing figure draped in robes of black and gold, stared at the reports with cold fury. His hands trembled slightly as he slammed his fists onto the command table. "Impossible," he hissed. "Humans cannot possess such power. They are insignificant. They are nothing." Admirals and generals shuffled uneasily, their confidence crumbling under the weight of reality. "Your Majesty, we underestimated them," stammered Admiral Varlan, one of the Empire's most seasoned strategists. "Their ship, it destroyed half our fleet with a single strike. Hundreds of cruisers gone in minutes." The Emperor's eyes narrowed, dark and burning with disbelief. "I will not accept this," he growled. "The humans will learn obedience. They will learn their place in this galaxy. No species defies the Empire and lives." But even the Emperor could not hide the gnawing fear in his chest. Reports kept coming. Entire battalions vaporized, command ships disabled, communications disrupted. The humans moved faster than any calculations could predict. Their tactics were unpredictable, their courage unwavering. The very thought of it unsettled the Empire's officers, who were trained to follow logic and protocol. In the Empire's fleet still in space, panic spread like a virus. Captain Vorlan tried to rally his surviving ships, but coordination was failing. Pilots and crews were exhausted, terrified, and uncertain. The humans had shattered their formations, broken their discipline, and left them scattered and vulnerable. "Sir, our weapons are failing," cried Lieutenant Saren, pointing at the displays. "Their shields, they absorb everything. And their counterattacks, they know our moves before we make them." Vorlan's face was pale, his jaw tight. He had led fleets into the most dangerous conflicts, faced enemies who outnumbered him tenfold, and yet he had never felt this helpless. The humans were more than a threat, they were a revelation. A species that refused to submit, refused to obey, refused to die. Meanwhile, across the Empire, whispers grew among the citizens. Traders, scientists, and colonists heard rumors of a single human warship, decimating the most powerful fleet the galaxy had ever known. Fear, awe, and curiosity rippled through every planet. The humans, once dismissed as weak, were suddenly the topic of whispered conversations and fearful speculation. Back on the human warship, Commander Elena Reyes observed the chaos with a quiet determination. She knew the Empire would not easily accept defeat, but she also knew that humans had something no empire could ever calculate: heart, courage, the unwillingness to surrender, even when the odds were impossible. "Remember," she said to her crew, "they may be powerful, but they are not human. We will never give up no matter what they send at us." The Empire's fleets faltered further. Communications broke down. Entire squadrons retreated in confusion, and the Emperor's plans crumbled before him. For the first time in centuries, the Empire felt something it had never truly experienced: fear. Not of an enemy alone, but of an entire species that refused to be controlled, tamed, or predicted. In that moment, far above the chaos, the human warship floated like a silver sentinel. Its presence was more than just firepower. It was a statement. Humanity had arrived in the galaxy, not as a weak race to be dominated, but as a force to be reckoned with. And the message was clear. The Empire, for all its might, had never faced an enemy like this before. Elena's voice, calm but firm, echoed in the hearts of her crew. "We are human, and humans never give up." And somewhere in the imperial capital, the Emperor realized, with growing horror, that this was only the beginning. The galaxy would never underestimate humanity again. The battle raged for hours across the dark void of space, but the Empire's fleet was no closer to victory than it had been when the human warship first appeared. Captain Vorlan's flagship rocked violently under repeated attacks, shields flashing warnings of imminent failure. Smoke curled from damaged consoles, and the cries of injured crewmen echoed through the corridors. He gritted his teeth, desperate to maintain control, but the humans were always one step ahead. Every maneuver, every strike seemed calculated to dismantle the Empire's pride piece by piece. "Sir, the command cruisers are exposed," Lieutenant Saren shouted, pointing at the holomap. "If we lose them, fleet coordination will collapse entirely." Vorlan's knuckles whitened as he slammed his fist onto the console. "We cannot allow that," he growled. "Fire everything, destroy that abomination!" But it was too late. The human warship, massive and precise, moved like a phantom among the stars. Commander Elena Reyes, calm and composed, observed the disarray with unshakable focus. "Lieutenant Miro," she said, her voice steady, "prepare the pulse vector. Target the command cluster. We will disable their fleet at the source." The young officer hesitated. "Commander, we've never attempted anything like this before." "If it fails," Elena met his gaze, firm but kind. "It will not fail. Humans never leave anything to chance. We fight for each other and for every life aboard this ship. Trust in that." The pulse vector activated. A brilliant surge of energy erupted from the human warship, a wave of light and force that rippled through space like a tidal wave. Vorlan's fleet shuddered violently. Shields faltered, weapons jammed, and communications went dark. Chaos consumed the Empire's formation, as cruisers spun out of control and fighter wings collided mid-air. For the first time, fear replaced confidence in Vorlan's heart. "Impossible," he muttered, watching his ships crumble under a single human attack. How can one ship, one species, do this? Outside, the pulse of energy continued to disrupt and disable. The human warship moved with uncanny precision, striking only where it would cause maximum disruption. Vorlan realized with growing horror that the humans had not just attacked, they had dismantled the very command structure of his fleet. His orders, once absolute, now meant nothing. In the command room of the human ship, Elena's crew worked in perfect harmony. "Vector 2, she instructed calmly. "Target their retreat paths. Ensure no regrouping. Keep them disoriented." Her eyes, sharp and determined, scanned the screens. "Remember, we do not destroy for the sake of death. We fight to show them that humans cannot be underestimated." Every action of the human warship reflected a deeper philosophy. strategy fused with empathy, intelligence fused with courage. They were not just fighting for victory, they were fighting for survival, for pride, and for the lives of every human aboard the ship. Vorlan's flagship took another hit. Alarms blared, warning lights flickered, and he felt the weight of defeat pressing down on him. Around him, officers and crew struggled to maintain composure, but it was impossible. The humans had shattered their formations, disabled their command ships, and left them scattered like leaves in a storm. Vorlan clenched his jaw. The Empire had trained for centuries, built fleets to intimidate the galaxy, yet here they were, powerless before a single human vessel. The realization cut deeper than any energy blast. Humans were not just clever or brave, they were something entirely new. Unpredictable, relentless, and unstoppable. Elena watched as the remnants of the Empire fleet struggled to escape. Her eyes softened just for a moment as she looked at her crew. Exhaustion lined their faces, but there was pride there too. Pride in what humanity had achieved against impossible odds. "Send the message," she said quietly. "Let them know who we are. Let the galaxy understand." The pulse faded, leaving the Empire fleet in ruins. For the first time, the humans had not just survived, they had triumphed. And across the void of space, one truth shone brighter than any weapon. Humanity could never be underestimated. The void of space was eerily quiet after the human warship's devastating assault. The Empire's fleet, once a symbol of unstoppable power, now drifted in ruins. Fires burned across shattered hulls. Alarms echoed faintly from crippled ships, and the occasional flare of energy reminded everyone that survival was no longer certain. Among the wreckage, the human warship moved like a silver sentinel, calm, unscathed, and resolute. Inside, Commander Elena Reyes walked slowly across the bridge. Her eyes, steady and piercing, scanned the chaos outside. She saw the broken formations, the drifting debris, and the fleeing remnants of what had once been the mightiest fleet in the galaxy. Yet she did not smile out of malice. Her pride was tempered with empathy. Every life aboard her ship mattered. Every decision she had made had spared countless humans, even while ensuring victory. Lieutenant Miro approached cautiously, his hands still trembling from the tension of battle. "Commander?" "It's over," he said quietly. "We did it." "We actually did it." Elena nodded, but her expression was thoughtful. "Yes, we did," she replied softly. "But this is not about pride. This is about what humanity represents. They underestimated us because they could not see our courage, our unity, our will to survive. That is what we have shown today." A young ensign, still wide-eyed from the battle, spoke up. "Commander? Do you think the Empire will come back? Stronger? Angrier?" Elena placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "Perhaps, but they will never understand us. Humans fight not just for power, not just for conquest, but for each other. That is something they cannot calculate, cannot predict, and cannot destroy. Today we have changed the galaxy's understanding of humanity." The crew looked around at one another. Exhaustion painted their faces, but beneath it shone a quiet, unbreakable pride. They had faced the impossible, and against all odds they had emerged victorious. Not because of advanced technology alone, not because of brute force, but because of heart, courage, and the unity of a species that refused to bow to fear. Elena returned to her station and activated the ship's communication array. Across the galaxy, the message would echo, "Humans are here. Humans endure. Humans will never submit." She watched the stars through the viewport, her mind filled with hope and resolve. For centuries, humanity had been underestimated, dismissed as fragile and insignificant. Today, that had ended. Outside, the Empire fleet was scattering, fleeing into the darkness. Some ships attempted to regroup, but coordination was impossible. The humans had not merely survived, they had shattered the very foundation of the Empire's power in this sector. And yet Elena did not feel hatred toward the enemy. She felt the weight of responsibility. Humans had proven themselves, but with power came duty. A species that could endure such destruction and still rise had a role in shaping the galaxy's future. The crew of the human warship began to share quiet smiles, small gestures of relief and pride. Engineers checked the hull, medics cared for the wounded, and officers plotted the course to safer territory. There was still much to do, much to plan, but for a moment they allowed themselves to feel the joy of victory. Elena turned to her crew, her voice carrying both strength and warmth. "Look around you. Every ship, every crew member, every human life aboard this vessel has mattered. Today the galaxy has seen what humanity can do. Never forget this moment. Never forget who we are. Outside the ship, distant stars twinkled silently, as if witnessing humanity's triumph. The Empire had learned a painful lesson. Humans were not just another species to conquer. They were cunning, courageous, and unyielding, and their story was only beginning. Elena took a deep breath, her eyes reflecting both sorrow for the lives lost and hope for what was to come. The galaxy was vast and dangerous, but humanity had stepped forward, unbroken and proud. And somewhere in the stars, a new chapter was waiting to be written. Humans endure. Humans fight. Humans will never bow. The galaxy was silent in the aftermath of the battle, as if it were holding its breath. The once mighty fleet of the Galactic Empire had been shattered, scattered across space like leaves torn from a tree. Smoke and debris floated through the void, and the stars reflected off the wreckage, creating a haunting tableau of destruction and survival. Amid the chaos, the human warship glided gracefully, undamaged, calm, and unyielding. Inside, Commander Elena Reyes stood on the bridge, her eyes tracing the remnants of the Empire's fleet. She felt a mix of relief, sorrow, and pride. The battle had been brutal. Many lives had been risked, some lost, yet humanity had survived and triumphed against impossible odds. Her crew moved quietly, tending to the wounded, repairing damage, and sharing glances that carried unspoken understanding. Every face bore exhaustion, but also the pride of knowing they had faced the greatest force in the galaxy and prevailed. Elena turned to her crew, her voice calm but powerful. "We have shown the galaxy who we are," she said. "Humans are not weak. We endure, we fight, and we do not bow to fear or oppression. Remember this moment. Remember that our courage and unity make us stronger than any enemy." Lieutenant Miro stepped forward, his voice hushed. "Commander? The Empire. They will regroup. They may try to strike again." Elena nodded. "Perhaps. But the Empire has seen something today that will stay with them forever. They have learned the truth about humans, that we are unpredictable, relentless, and unbreakable. And that is a lesson they will never forget." Outside, scattered Imperial ships fled in confusion, their officers shaken and humiliated. Across the galaxy, rumors would spread of a single human warship taking on an entire fleet and emerging victorious. The message was clear, and it resonated far beyond the battlefield. Humanity was a force that could not be underestimated. Elena activated the ship's communication system. Her voice, calm yet commanding, echoed across the void, reaching any who would listen. "To the galaxy, we are human. We endure, we fight, and we will never bow. Let this be a warning and a promise." Her crew watched the transmission, a sense of awe and unity washing over them. Humanity had survived millennia of challenges on a small, fragile planet. Yet here they stood among the stars, proving that courage, ingenuity, and compassion could rival the greatest weapons in the galaxy. Captain Vorlan, aboard a damaged escape vessel, stared at the human warship. Fear, disbelief, and grudging respect filled his heart. He had trained his entire life to lead, to conquer, to dominate. But he had underestimated the humans. Their strength was not just in technology or firepower. It was in their spirit, their determination, and their unwillingness to give up even in the face of annihilation. Across star systems, humans and allies alike would tell the tale of this battle for generations. It was more than a victory. It was a testament to the resilience of a species that refused to be dismissed. Every human life aboard the ship, every human who had worked together to survive, had rewritten the galaxy's understanding of what it meant to fight and endure. Elena looked out at the stars, the vastness of space stretching endlessly before her. She felt a quiet pride, not just in victory, but in what humanity represented. They had faced the impossible and risen stronger, teaching the galaxy that courage, unity, and determination were more powerful than fear or tyranny. In that silence, a new legacy was born. Humanity had stepped onto the galactic stage, not as a minor species to be conquered, but as a beacon of hope, resilience, and unyielding spirit. The Empire had been humbled, the galaxy awakened, and a new chapter in human history had begun. Elena's eyes shone with quiet determination. "This is only the beginning," she whispered. "Humans will endure. Humans will fight. And no matter what the galaxy sends, we will never bow." And somewhere in the distant stars, the message spread like light through darkness. Never underestimate a human, the galaxy would remember.